Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast where we have digital discussions in the worlds of social media, sports, and pop culture. Been having a lot of wrestling guests on the show. Big wrestling fan here. PD Beats is a big wrestling fan. Pretty excited for my guest this evening. I have the play-by-play announcer from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Kevin Kelly is with us. Kevin, welcome to Popternative.
Thank you very much, and it's great to be on with you tonight. We'll talk about all kinds of things, not just pro wrestling, right? Because this is what you do on your show.
Yeah,
you
absolutely. You want to talk about different things. You know, you want to talk like social media is a big background thing. You know, we've had a lot of wrestlers on the show. Donovan Dijak, but he didn't talk about wrestling. He talked about social media. So the question is, what are you going to talk about?
Donovan Dijak is a social media menace, though.
Yeah, he's on there all the time.
Yeah, he needs to not give instructions to anybody on anything with social media.
So, let's get into it. You just recently came back from Osaka, correct?
Yes.
So,
we had the big Power Struggle show, the annual event in November, and a little bit of news came out of that event, I think, if social media being the barometer for what it is.
Yeah.
And that was Chris Jericho and challenging Kenny Omega out of nowhere, and so now they're going to wrestle each other at Wrestle Kingdom on January 4th in the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, and man, I was gonna bring that up. Like, you beat me to it. Like, that's like
I stayed out for a second. I thought you were gonna take it.
So you know what? I usually don't prep questions, but I prep questions for this interview, and that was one of the questions that I was gonna ask at the end. But I guess since you brought it up, I gotta bring it up now. So what do you think about that? Chris Jericho, Wrestle Kingdom, Tokyo Dome. Is that a way, in your opinion, of New Japan Pro Wrestling kind of maybe trying to get more like North American fans in there? Like, what do you think about that decision?
I think it is mutually beneficial for both New Japan Pro Wrestling and for Chris Jericho. From the New Japan side, certainly it's a boon to be able to have somebody with the star power and the reputation, the talent, the ability, all of the above of a Chris Jericho. He is in a handful of wrestlers in the world. He's the first ever undisputed WWF champion. He's done things in wrestling that nobody else has. The way it's beneficial for him is that he gets to once again reinvent himself. And he has been the master of such over the last few years with WWE. And now he just proves to be, just a chameleon who can change faces, who can do all sorts of different things. And I marvel at that. So I think it's great for him. It gets the world talking about him, but certainly it gets the world talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling, because a lot of people woke up on the 6th and wait, Jericho's doing what? For whom? I've never heard of them.
But that's a great thing. It's iconic. It's monumental. You know, like I said in the Twitter message to you, like it's that you just like even the Alpha versus Omega. Like it's a wrestler's dream.
It is great. And again, when that video popped on and you could just hear it took the people a second to kind of figure it out. And once they did, then it just took them a few other seconds to kind of digest the fact that, wait, this is happening at Wrestle Kingdom. And I could feel, I had my phone in my pocket.
Yeah.
And it must have been crazy. The vibrations. I could feel the vibrations from Twitter from all the notifications that I was getting, like instantaneously. Like, oh my God, the internet is blowing up in my leg. So yeah, it was just remarkable.
It must have been crazy. And a lot of people know you worked at the WWE. Well, back then it was WWF. You've been with Ring of Honor. Now you're with New Japan Pro Wrestling. When did you decide that you wanted to, was it specifically like wrestling that you wanted to work in, or did you just want to be in broadcasting?
When I was a little kid, I grew up in Florida, and I grew up listening to Gordon Soley. I didn't want to, a lot of kids, they'll play wrestle outside. That wasn't me. I didn't want to be a wrestler. I wanted to be the announcer.
Yep.
I was motivated by the way he told stories, and I looked at the way that the storylines affected attendance. You know, when they would show the crowd and you would get to see how full the seats were. That's always what kind of motivated me. So I went to college for traditional broadcasting. I went to Florida State University and did all the, you know, kind of the prerequisite stuff, and then worked for the college radio station, worked for Seminole Uprising, covered all the sports teams. But then when I graduated, I worked in radio, and I was just kind of trying to figure out my way into wrestling. Wrestling found me because a local wrestling promoter called the radio station looking for if somebody wanted to ring announce for his local event. And so I kicked the woman who took the call. I gave her, you know, the backdrop, and then I took the phone out of her hand and said, I'm your guy.
And we talked about it before, but it's been 20 years since Brian Pillman has passed away.
Right.
And
crazy.
You're involved in one of the most controversial segments probably in the history of wrestling.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. We went to Brian Pillman's house to interview him after he had his leg destroyed by Stone Cold Steve Austin. We were going to talk to Brian, find out his state of mind, talk to his wife Melanie, and then we get word that Austin was on his way. All hell broke loose. We had no idea what was going to happen. As far as I had no idea what was going to happen. And the controversial part was neither did USA Network. They were none too pleased with that. But it's something that people still talk about 20 years later. And, you know, between that and kind of, you know, the anniversary of 97 was a huge year, not all for good. But it was a lot of change in the wrestling industry. Pillman was on the forefront of a lot of those changes. And like when I was talking about Chris Jericho a few moments ago and what he's doing now, he's kind of like the 20-year version later of Brian Pillman in a way, to me, is that he's carving his own path. He's doing it his own way. He's keeping people guessing at all times. And Brian was a master of that. He played people like puppets. And it was just wonderful to see how he manipulated both the press in the wrestling industry, outside of the wrestling industry, did whatever he wanted to do.
No, absolutely. But like, what was your like reaction to something like that? Like, when did you find out about it? Like, I mean, it's all scripted, right? But like, what was your reaction when you were going to be involved with that bit?
The only thing that I knew, and now it's a lot more scripted than it was, okay? Nobody gave me questions to ask Brian. It was Brian and I kind of sitting down and fleshing out some of what we felt like we should talk about and how we should go. And then, like at the last minute, Vince decided he wanted to jump in. I think because he knew like it was going to be really good and he had to get himself over. But it was an opportunity to just sort of create and go and feel, and we had no idea that how any of it was going to unfold, nor did I know like I was going to get called after, you know, like I was going to be hunkered down sort of under a table with Austin running around outside, and there's a gun in Pillman's hand. It's like, okay, now we're having some fun. So
yeah, no, it's crazy. And you also mentioned 20 years since another pretty big event.
Yeah, today's the 20th anniversary of the Montreal Screwjob between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, and with the end of Bret Hart's era in the WWF, and just the way everything went down. You know, I was there in the building. I was not in the arena per se, but was right alongside the dressing room with the AOL.com. That's how long ago it was. It was AOL.com and WWF.com.
Yeah.
So we were on the AOL site, and we were on WWF's, baby website at the time, just started doing some streaming stuff. And all of a sudden I see Earl Hebner run, and he jumps in a car and drives away as quick as he can. And then Jerry Lawler came through and sort of like rolled his eyes like, Jesus, what a scene that was. Then I go out and I stand in the hallway. And if you remember the Wrestling with Shadows with the Bret Hart documentary, and they had that scene like where after Vince had gotten punched, and all the people like Julie was questioning Hunter's involvement, and you knew it, and all this and that. I was standing literally like right behind the camera. That was my point of view. So I had the best seat in the house, Pete, for this whole thing, because I saw Hebner beat a trail. I saw all of the chaos and confusion as it was coming back down this way towards me, and then we'd just sneak in every once in a while and give people updates. It was a lot of fun.
What do you think social media, like if this happened in like the social media era, like it would probably I don't even know where to start.
It's remarkable how social media affects all of what we do from a day-to-day basis. But when big news events happen, regardless of sport, entertainment, whatever, social media is on the front lines. It would have completely taken over, and it would have been perhaps more dominant than anything. I don't know, outside of some tragedy within the wrestling industry, an untimely passing or something like that, if there will ever be a scenario where something like this happens, with what happened with Bret and with Shawn and the WWF, because again, there isn't any place else for anybody to go that's of equal or perhaps, at that time, greater magnitude than what the WWF had to offer. It just isn't anymore. So therefore, is anything like this ever going to happen? Probably not ever again. But yeah, social media would have, they always talk about the internet broke when this happened. Well, the Montreal Screwjob would have destroyed the internet, I'm sure, once and for all.
So another thing I wanted to ask you, who do you like? Like, you watch a lot of wrestling. It's like it's what you do. You know what I mean? You watch, you comment on wrestling. New Japan Pro Wrestling. Who do you like? Even outside of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor, WWE. Like, who do you like? Who are kind of like up and comers in Kevin Kelly's books?
Well, of course, I'm really in the New Japan bubble right now, and I do watch a lot of the matches. I pay very close attention to the Young Lion matches because they are going to be hopefully the future of wrestling. And I think that I don't think all of them are going to make it, and they very rarely do. But I think that quite a couple, 3, 4 of them are going to make it out of this current crop. And when I say make it, I mean like become really big stars. Yeah. Like there's just some it factor there. I was just in Quebec City not too long ago, and I had I've seen Marcus Burke before. He's at Vegan Wrestler on Twitter. I think he's amazing, and he just wrestled for TNA this week. And I had said that he and Marco Estrada, who were both on that card, were breakout guys, and were certainly names that no one knows yet, but that I think people will know very quickly. I think with Impact being now more Canadian based, that'll probably make it easier for guys like for Marcus Burke and for Marco Estrada, Matt Angel. There's a bunch of other guys. Kicking and Stomping is a great tag team. There's going to be some, and Tyson Dukes, who of course is a 21-year vet and was in the CWC last year. I think he's fantastic. You can't go wrong with watching. You can't go wrong with watching AJ Styles. You can't go wrong with watching Christopher Daniels. You can't go wrong with watching the Young Bucks or Jay Lethal. In any situation, at any time. Young Christopher Daniels, which I think there's still some black and white films of. You try to unearth that, it's really like a gem. That's me pulling his leg because I say that he was on the undercard of Buddy Rogers and Pat O'Connor in '61, but he wasn't quite there yet. But when you get the opportunity to see this current crop of guys that I do up close, I'm 6 feet away from watching Okada and Naito and Kenny Omega and Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kota Ibushi and Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks. It's just remarkable to be able to see them.
Okay. Putting you on the spot. Okada was recently named best wrestler of the world, in the top 500 wrestlers. Do you agree with that?
I do. If you would have told me that AJ Styles was number one, I couldn't argue. Yeah. But I think that between them, that's 1 and 1A, and slightly beneath that maybe would be Kenny Omega. Yeah. If you put premium on the title, let's just say that because Okada was the reigning IWGP Heavyweight Champion, and AJ, who just regained it last night or the night before, had already been champion. Okay, could say they've achieved something that Omega has not.
Yep.
If Omega was the best wrestler in the world, you could have had a little bit of a debate, a good debate, only because, well, at the time, he had beaten Okada once, and it was the third time they had met, and the time that Kenny did win, it wasn't for the IWGP Heavyweight title. No. But to be able to see them do what they do is remarkable. Okada is so precise and exact in everything that he does. It's just a joy to see.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin, we're going to wrap up, but thank you so much for coming on the show. Like, I really appreciate it.
This is fun. You get to see some of the wrought iron artwork in my beautiful, no, I'm standing in my bedroom because it's quiet. But I was intrigued because I get asked to do a lot of interviews, and a lot of times I'll go, I'd rather not. But this was one that I wanted to do because you don't just talk to wrestling people. No. You talk to sports people, and you talk to entertainment people, and it's like, man, this is cool. We can do other things besides just talk about wrestling.
So next time when you come back, if you want to come back, we'll get you on a panel because we do panels. We do panels where it's me, you, and like 2 other people from like other industries.
Let's definitely do that. That'd be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin, thank you. Where can people follow you on social media? Real Kevin.
At Real Kevin Kelly on Twitter. I think the same on Instagram. Yeah, at Real Kevin Kelly on Instagram. And again, if you do anything, of course, sign up for New Japan World right now. It's 999 yen a month, and just go to njpwworld.com.
Perfect, Kevin. Thank you so much. You can everyone, you can catch previous episodes of Popternative on YouTube, popternative.com. If you liked what you saw, please press the like button and also subscribe to us. Until next time, this is Real Kevin Kelly and Peter Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.